It's time for Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris. Here's your host, Greg Bicouvaris.
And welcome to Sports Scene. Sports Scene right here, produced once a month by the good people at Audacy, at Greg Bick on Twitter and YouTube. It's a pleasure to talk to Jim Ducibella. He's in the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, the Hampton Roads Sports Media Hall of Fame, longtime writer for the Virginian Pilot and the Ledger Star, correct, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, of course, happily retired now, living in the colonial capital. Jim, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Appreciate being on.
I guess the big thing now, as we all get older, is our health first, and then kind of go from there.
It's better. My health is better. I had open heart surgery a year ago and have recovered from that, been dismissed by all my doctors, or almost all of my doctors, and so I feel better than I have in a long time.
Let me just ask you real quick, Jim, because there are a lot of listeners that, you know, everybody's health is affected. Are there things you have to cut out of your diet, like no soda, no caffeine, or you can still have some of that?
No, you have to. It's like anything else. You have to do it in moderation. I do not eat any salt. I don't salt my food, and I try not to eat anything that might have salt in it for obvious reasons. Salt isn't very healthy for you. And I've come to acquire a taste for food that hasn't been salted, so I really don't consider it much of a sacrifice. I haven't had any alcohol, beer, or wine in 15 months, and I haven't missed it, to be quite honest with you. So that's another positive thing that I do to try to maintain my health.
And water is very good for everybody, folks.
Absolutely.
Let me say this. Let's get right to it. The first 3 years of Ron Rivera, he did make the postseason his first year against Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. He lost, has had 2 losing records. This year he went 8-1. They get rid of Norv Turner's son. Of course, you covered Norv Turner. Your thoughts on the season in whole?
Well, the season in whole was hugely disappointed, particularly since they were lined up pretty well for the playoffs and had to win a couple of games that they were seemed to be perfectly capable of, most especially the home game against Cleveland. And they spit the bit, as they have done not only when Ron Rivera was coach, but Jay Gruden and other coaches in the recent past. Getting rid of Scott Turner, I'm ambivalent about it. Obviously, he didn't do a particularly good job, but on the other hand, he went through 8 quarterbacks in 3 years and horrible offensive lines, or at least less than average offensive lines, and it's very difficult to impose your offensive philosophy when you don't have the guns to make it work. The only thing that I see that I really never understood is that it's clear that Ron Rivera wants a run-heavy attack, and I think Scott got carried away sometimes with the passing game, much to their disappointment and detriment. So it was time to make a change, and I'm sure it'll be fascinating to see what sort of offensive coordinator they bring in to take his place. I suspect it'll be somebody who is a run game guru, if there is such a thing.
But it was tough, too, because Robinson got shot during the offseason, one of the top running backs. When he did play, he played very well. But, 3 different quarterbacks, that didn't help either.
Right, and you have to be able to make adjustments. And when while Robinson was recovering, Scott didn't make the necessary adjustments. He, instead of sticking with Gibson and McKissick and Williams, he reverted more to a passing attack. And neither, once Carson Wentz went out, Taylor Heineke didn't have the arm to carry it off. He's a very good backup quarterback, and he's a guy you can win a certain amount of games with, but you can't play a deep passing game with him because he can't get the ball there.
They're not a high-scoring team either. They're going to have to work on their offense next year. They did win games, but like one person said, they weren't blowing out teams like 35-10 when they won. It was very close, and the good example of that was the Colts game.
Yeah, and their most dominant performance was against Philadelphia, and they carried out the game plan, the offensive philosophy beautifully, and it was mystifying to some of us as to why they increasingly got away from that run-heavy offense. They need to rebuild the center of their offensive line, or move some pieces around, whether they move Cosme from Sam Cosmi from tackle to guard or whatever. But the center of their offense, they got to find a center who can stay on the field first and foremost. Between Tyler Lawson and Chase Roulier, those guys, Roulier, who's a very good player, has played 10 games in the last 2 years. That's not enough, clearly.
Talking to Jim Ducibella, don't forget our good friends at Mi Hogar are celebrating 27 years of delicious Mexican cuisine in Norfolk. Always the coaching carousel. Jim, it looks like Rivera's safe, but of course, Lovie Smith, who I'm not a big fan of, he got another opportunity. He didn't do well at Illinois, and he did very well with the Bears, but he just seems like it's same old, and I can see why they made the change. But on the other hand, switching head coaches every year is not good, and Houston is a mess as well.
Oh, there's no question about it. The Texans are a mess, and they've gone through a lot of head coaches, and I think that's another team that just can't land on a philosophy, or once they find a philosophy, they don't have, for whatever reason, the wherewithal to carry it through. I'm not surprised that Lovie was let go, I mean, for obvious reasons. And I think he's one of a large number of people, and maybe Del Rio is this way too, that they're acutely capable of being coordinators, defensive, but you don't want them running the entire show. You don't want them to be the CEO and making all the other types of decisions that a modern NFL head coach has to make that may have very little to do with actually X's and O's. And I think Lovie, it's been pretty well established that he can be a very capable coordinator, but I don't think the overall responsibilities of being a head coach fit his skill set.
Switching topics, and of course, Bill O'Brien was a good coach with the Texans. They were so eager to get rid of him, the former coach that coached at Penn State. He did a pretty good job. Nobody's come close to what he did.
No, by comparison, yes.
You've written a lot of books, a lot of golf books, and let me ask you this question. Let's just take the last 3 or 4 years, the Michelob tournament in Williamsburg, the Kingsmill tournament, whatever you want to call it, men or women, they've been playing there since 1981, but that's not been the case the last several years in Kingsmill. They did not play in 20, obviously. They did play in 21. They did not play in 22. Will there ever be a professional golf tournament, even a live tour in Kingsmill?
I wouldn't say will there ever be. I mean, someday there could very well be. It won't be this year. What the biggest event that golf fans have to look forward to, and that may not satisfy them, is that in June the VSGA and the Middle Atlantic PGA are sponsoring the first Women's Golf Open of Virginia, a 54-hole tournament featuring both amateurs and women professionals, and that'll be played at Independence Golf Course outside of Richmond. So it'll be very convenient for people in our area to get to. But that's as close as we're going to come without going to D.C. for professional golf. And I don't see, given the fact that purses have, even on the LPGA, have increased radically over the course of the last 4 years, I think that this region and this area may be priced out of the market. I just don't see the type of corporate sponsors that are willing to put up the types of money that the LPGA is talking about, and certainly not the PGA Tour. So I'm afraid that I think those days are over, at least in the very short term.
I tell you, when Orion Burkhart and Wayne Noe and so many others ran the Kingsmill Golf Tournament, Johnny Bender, it was a first-class event, and even the LPGA player said it was like a fifth major. Switching gears, Jim, what a horrible year for Virginia Tech, Old Dominion, and UVA. Of course, they had a tragedy, but regardless, what a horrible year for all three of those football teams.
Yeah, college football in the state, with the possible exception of JMU, which was a surprise, and Liberty, was pathetic. I mean, let's just put it honestly. I was stunned at Virginia Tech at how poorly they played, and frankly, with Armstrong at quarterback, I was stunned at how poorly Virginia competed. Old Dominion, I kind of figured that they would struggle, not to the extent that they did. I thought they'd win a couple more games than they did, but I didn't see them as being, top rung in their particular G5. JMU was a shock, and it was a pleasant shock, and I think that that program was far ahead, far and above. Well, William and Mary was very good too at its level. Don't get me wrong about that. But as far as the major colleges are concerned, it was a wholly totally disappointing year. Tech and I suspect Virginia will dip heavily into the transfer portal and come up with ways to improve the team. I wonder about what Old Dominion will be able to acquire in the way of high-quality transfers. I did see where they've got a kid that originally signed with Alabama who is committed verbally to coming to ODU to either play running back or cornerback. I mean, if you can get 2 or 3 kids at that particular level, I'd be astonished. But, I mean, it's a welcome for ODU fans. But they've got to do a lot more of that because clearly a lot of the kids that are transferring out of the program, when you see where they're going to, they're not going to schools that are equal in esteem, I will say, in terms of ODU. They're going to lower-rung schools, which means that perhaps they shouldn't have been recruited at the G5 ODU level in the first place.
And a lot of these quarterbacks that are transferring, you never see players used to go different years, different teams. It's too much. This NIL, and of course the transfer portal is too much. Good example. If George Welsh was still coaching Virginia, Brennan Armstrong would not have gone to another ACC school at NC State. That just shows to me Virginia's head coach does not have the respect of the quarterback. There's some issues there, Jim. I think a lot of this is with the head coach because the head coach dictates players playing on the field, and there must be a disconnect there.
There must be, although you have to, as you said, you have to throw in the NIL. I have absolutely no idea what types of contracts or what types of incentives some of these schools. I mean, NC State has always had a very robust Wolfpack club, and in terms of donations, I mean, the people in Charlottesville certainly are capable of equating what an NC State or a North Carolina can do. But, I mean, Robert Kennedy, who went to UAB, went to ODU, and now is transferred to NC State. I mean, maybe they couldn't keep him financially, ODU. And I don't know what NC State could have offered the kid. But if they offered him $25,000, which seems like a drop in the bucket compared to some of the numbers that are being thrown out around here, they probably couldn't hang with that type of incentive. Yeah,
Jimmy, you remember lastly that it used to be tough to get a Tech ticket or a UVA ticket or even an Old Dominion ticket, or no matter what sport. Now it seems like it's almost crickets. You can easily walk up to the day of the game and buy a ticket if you're a fan, and that's your prerogative.
Well, certainly I can speak to ODU as a season ticket holder, and I agree with you. That is the case and has been the case for the last 2, maybe 3 years. If they ever get back to winning, and I don't have any reason to suspect that Ricky Ronnie won't be able to do that, if they ever get back to winning, I think that'll change dramatically and very quickly. I give the university credit for saying, look, we've had a few bad years in a row, and here's what we're going to do to reach out to our fans to try and engender some more support from them. The current program of $30 off every season ticket that you sell if you renew by a certain date is a very clever and very warranted idea that ODU is employing, and I salute them for it because there'd be a lot of schools that would either maintain the status quo or might even go the other way and say, look, we're only increasing ticket prices by a minuscule amount. I don't think the product has warranted that sort of thing, and I give ODU credit for recognizing that.
Finally, Jim, do you think Snyder will actually sell the team? There's been talk. He's still in his late 50s, Jim. He's still one of the youngest owners with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's still one of the youngest owners among them.
Well, a couple things. I think I know the NFL can't demand that he sell the team. They can. I've been told that they can only, quote unquote, encourage him to sell the team and to sell the team in a timely fashion. I question whether the second one will be done in time for significant changes to the rest of the coaching staff and draft and scouting and all. But the other thing that the fact that he has applied and is moving to England tells me, yes, he is going to sell the team. And I think it'll be this year, but it'll probably be too late for, like I said, significant changes to be implemented. Who will buy it? If I were the NFL, I'd be pushing for minority ownership to try and get back into the District of Columbia. But I understand that even that they're not capable of doing beyond the quote-unquote encouragement stage. So it may well be Bezos and a minority partner who's a minority partner.
Yeah, talk about getting out of Dodge. That's going to another country. Jim, all the best to you and your wife, and continued health and happiness, and have a great 2023, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks. Same to you, Greg. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Jim Ducibella right there.
Mi Hogar is your restaurant for the finest Mexican cuisine in Hampton Roads. At Mi Hogar, everything is prepared fresh in a casual and comfortable atmosphere. Enjoy traditional favorites such as quesadillas, tacos, burritos, and fajitas, as well as refreshing beverages. Mi Hogar is located at 4201 Granby Street and is a tradition in Norfolk. Call 640-7705 and log on to MiHogarMexicanRestaurant.com. At Mi Hogar, there's something for everyone.
Buffalo Wild Wings in Newport News. Great lunch and dinner, late night at Buffalo Wild Wings. Delicious food, wings, appetizers, beverages, all the games on TV. Open 7 days a week. Like Buffalo Wild Wings on Facebook. Friendly and hardworking staff. Jefferson Avenue in Newport News by Patrick Henry Mall. Outback Steakhouse in Kempsville and Virginia Beach, open daily for lunch and dinner. Mike and the staff will take good care of you. Burgers, steaks, salads, appetizers, desserts, and much more. Great atmosphere, a nice bar, spacious dining room. 1255 Fordham Drive in Virginia Beach. All right, welcome back to Sports Scene. Don't forget our good friends at Mi Hogar celebrating 27 years of delicious Mexican cuisine in Norfolk. Congratulations to Armando. It's a pleasure to welcome colleague David Salati. He's a talent spotter primarily for the NFL and Fox and Westwood One and various other networks. David, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, Greg. It's great to be here with you today. Honored to be on the show, and thanks for what you do.
Very good, very good. 18 NFL games. Tell us what you did this past fall and kind of what a talent spotter does.
So a talent spotter, really, to break it down, works with the on-air talent to deliver content production support throughout the game and as the various events unfold on the field. So if you really break it down, Greg, pre-snap, identifying players on the field, both on offense and defense, formations, what personnel the offense is in, defensively, what type of defense they may be in a dime or a nickel package, those types of things. I deliver that in real time, ubiquitously to the on-air announcers that I'm privileged to work with so that the viewer is most informed wherever they may be listening or watching the games. They're most in tune to what's going on. During the play, you look at what's happening with the ball carrier, so identifying who the running backs are, receivers, who makes the tackle on defense, those types of things. There's a lot of things going on, as you know, Greg, during a production, so trying to deliver that to the on-air announcer so they can feed that, in their call, and sometimes they may elect to not use it, but you want to be on top of things. And with that comes a lot of preparation activities before the events get to a Sunday. With watching some just getting a feel for the teams, the players, subtle tendencies beforehand. So I do a lot of that, a pretty meticulous approach. But my at the end of the day, I'm trying to be a value add to the production and the on-air announcers, including to the color commentator or analyst as well, where I can feed them information in real time during the telecast.
Yeah, and sometimes some analysts do have their own spotter because you can only be near one, usually the play-by-play announcer, but it really is time, talent, and treasure. And really, from my standpoint as a stage manager and also an announcer at the local and regional level, you really have to have a good relationship, David, the spotter does, with the play-by-play guy, because it's all about trust, and really you only have a split second to identify a number.
Exactly. Your credibility's on the line, and if you're not on top of things, then the trust is not going to be there, as you wisely point out, and you don't ever want that to happen. And so I, again, just really going back to the approach I take each and every game to really make sure that I'm prepared, because it's almost like going in for a test. If you show up and try to wing it, you're probably not going to do all that well when the lights are on you. So it is something that I do take pride in, to make sure that that the trust is there, and you build that up over time. Obviously, the more you work with any play-by-play announcer and you get the reps with them, then you start to get in a flow. They understand, what some of your hand signals mean, and that's what you want, so that there's no hesitation, that there's no delay in what they're going to call for the viewer or listener at home.
It does take preparation, folks. Like David says, it's not just the flip card. These are big sheets. These are big poster board-like material with color charts, with Sharpies and everything involved, highlighters, pens. I mean, it's like a professor doing live work. Imagine doing a movie live. That's what network television in sports is. Absolutely,
and you're right. These are big charts. They have all the offensive personnel, defensive personnel, rosters, which I make for college in particular, where there's so many players, so that everything's at the ready, and field of vision binoculars, so that I'm seeing everything on the field, so that I can quickly give it to the announcer. So it is quite an art up in that announce booth, and you've seen it. You've been privy to that, Greg, with the work you do as well. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you got to stay focused. We all do in that booth, because it's you're live for at least 3+ hours, depending on the game. Basketball might be a little bit less, but talk about some of the teams you work with this past fall. I know Kevin Kugler was one of them. Yeah, I got the privilege to work with Kevin Kugler. I've been working with him dating back to 2016 with Big Ten Network, with college. Also got to work with Matt Berry on Thursday night college football with ESPN. Matt does Sports Center, big time Saturday studio anchor for ESPN as well. So got to work with those as my primary crews. And then whenever I was available on Saturdays, I would also, where opportunities came forth, I would jump on those to do a couple of Saturday games with CBS Sports Network. Got the opportunity to work with fellow Syracuse alum that I've always admired to work with, Carter Blackburn, back in the booth this past fall, and a couple others as well. So all in all, as I broke it down, Greg, 30 different cities, domestically, internationally. Just looking at the NFL schedule, 9 on the West Coast, a lot of West Coast trips, 4 in Central time zones, and 3 in Eastern time zones. Looking at the NFL schedule, including 21 games if you go back to mid-August. But those were the primary Fox NFL crew, and as well as the ESPN Thursday night crew. Really full schedule. You got to stay focused. You got to take care of yourself health-wise too, because there's really not a lot of downtime at all. Can you exhale a little bit now with radio, or it's still the same focus you want to give 110%? But sure. Of course, the season's pretty much winding down now. What do you have in the first quarter of the year? So, as I mentioned, I have the game coming up this weekend with Westwood. It's been a little while since I've had the opportunity, so really looking forward to be back with them this coming Sunday. And then from there, perhaps some of the spring leagues that are coming back, like the XFL, which was hit hard with the pandemic, under new ownership with The Rock these days. So we'll see with that. But just taking a little bit of a breather, trying to get back to life, doing some administrative, trying to catch up on all that fun stuff. Because you're right, it's just go, go, go. There isn't a lot of downtime. You're really jumping from one city to the next. You're barely there. You land, you get to the hotel, you do a game, and then you're pretty much running back to the airport. So it's just kind of taking a little bit of a breather and seeing what opportunities may come about.
Very good, David. Any social media you want to plug?
LinkedIn, David J. Salati. You can find me there. Also, Facebook is David J. Salati as well for those.
Very good, my friend. Happy New Year. Look forward to work with you again in the fall, and always respect what you do and your before and after work as well. It's not just the game, but it's the before and after too. David, all the best.
Thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year.
My pleasure. David Salati, Talent Spotter. Sports Scene will continue after this.
So, what's Greg's problem?
I'm very mad!
God, I'm so mad right now!
I know you're mad. I know you're upset.
It's time for What Tees Greg Off.
All right, what teased me off? Don't forget, folks, GJBTV.com. Click the YouTube link for archived audio and video, shows, commercials, and a lot more on Greg Bick, the YouTube page, GREGBIC. Please subscribe, tell your friends. All right, what teased me off, Kenny, is the Newport News City logo. It is absolutely horrible. It looks like a rainbow.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's bad.
I'm guessing there are two N's in there.
There's nothing in there.
Oh.
Just a lot of circles of colors.
What the heck is that? Here's something that teased me off. Trying to log into something, and there's a message that says, type the letters you see.
Yeah.
Choose all the pictures of bridges. And then you have to figure it out. And it says, so we know you're not a robot. So it's basically a robot checking to make sure you're not a robot.
Yeah, not to mention, too, when you do the passwords, and you are typing it correctly, but they still say it's incorrect, so that's another whole ball of wax right there.
Don't get me started.
Yes. Okay. Cigarette buds near your property. We know who the people are that walk by and smoke. They make it so obvious, Ken, with their dogs, and, they're too lazy, so they just throw the cigarette buds right there on the side of the road. Well, that's litter.
Yes, it is. How about pretzels?
Yeah.
They all taste burnt. Nobody really likes them. Nobody's ever liked them, so let's stop pretending that we like pretzels.
Yeah. Yeah, they get no respect. You're exactly right. You don't ever see anybody go to the grocery store saying, I want to get more pretzels.
Apparently, they're very popular with somebody, just not me.
Yeah, they just grab them.
Yeah.
Of course. And my last thing that teased me off, we do this every month on Sports Scene, is snowballs. I mean, I know they're great, but, they can end in injury. So please be careful. If we ever see snow in this area, don't throw it at somebody.
It's always fun and games till someone scratches a cornea. My last one is putting my ATM card in the machine, and it asked me to select the language.
Oh.
Listen, you know my name, you know how much money I have in the bank, but you don't know what language I speak? Something's wrong here.
Yeah. We rely too much on digital age. You and I grew up with pens and paper. That's it. And that's what teased me off. BJ's Restaurant Brewhouse, home of the Pizookie, Tech Center Newport News, lunch and dinner, huge menu, salads, appetizers, burgers, entrees, desserts, open daily for lunch and dinner, late night dining, great place to unwind, eat, relax, and watch sports on TV. BJ's Restaurant Brewhouse in Newport News.
Sakura Japanese Restaurant in Chesapeake is your destination for excellent Japanese food, featuring fresh sushi and hot dishes prepared in the kitchen for lunch and dinner. Sakura is located at 1437 Sands Drive at the Walmart Way Crossing. Oh Yummy Sushi is at the Renaissance Place at 401 North Great Neck Road in Virginia Beach. Both Sakura in Chesapeake and Oh Yummy Sushi in Virginia Beach are available with DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, and Pickup. Tasty Japanese food the way you want it is at Sakura and Oh Yummy Sushi.
Buffalo Wild Wings Grill and Bar, right there at 4918 Courthouse Street. Give them a call at 229-6099. Lunch, dinner, late night, delicious food, nice staff, wings, appetizers, beverages, all the games on TV, open 7 days a week. Like Buffalo Wild Wings on Facebook. Enjoy a great meal and have a good time at Buffalo Wild Wings in Williamsburg. Excellent food, entrees, appetizers, desserts, something for everyone at their Williamsburg location. Oh Yummy Sushi Japanese restaurant in Kemps River is open and ready to serve you, featuring an all-you-can-eat experience with signature dishes from the kitchen and fresh sushi prepared for you. Oh Yummy Sushi is open for lunch and dinner daily with dine-in, carry-out, as well as DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub. Located at 1255 Fordham Drive at the Kemps River Crossing. Call 937-2011 for Oh Yummy Sushi, the best sushi in Hampton Roads. And welcome back to Sports Scene. Greg Bicouvaris, glad you're with us. And our featured guest right here is George McClain from The Marksman. Don't forget, Sports Scene is available also on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. George, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, Greg. How about yourself?
Very good, very good. Into January, a little chilly outside. And, of course, you guys are located at 520 Industrial Park Drive in Newport News. The phone number is 757-872-4130. You're a gun store, but you're also, you can do shooting and range and all that stuff, and you have accessories. Really is something for everyone there.
Well, we try to, to stay, to become multifaceted and to stay that way. I mean, everyone knows us as an indoor, shooting range, but, we also, have the retail side where we're selling, firearms, ammunition, shooting accessories. And then we also have the training side of the house. So we really bill it as a firearms training center. And that's where our focus is. And in order to train appropriately and correctly, you need to have the range to be able to live fire the weapon. So everything kind of works together. So we maintain those three separate entities under one umbrella. And so far it's worked out quite well for us.
And you did pretty well yourself because you didn't start off as the owner. You kind of evolved into it. Now the facility is yours and it's run by your family.
Well, correct. I came on as just an employee when I had retired from my previous career. And that was in 2009, I believe. In 2010, we had quite a reorganization, and I became general manager at that time. And then in 2012, I purchased the facility, and I've owned it since then. So we've had our ups and downs with the economy, with the political seasons as that changes. It seems like our best salesman of the year, which is typically the president, depending on the political party. As that changes, that affects our retail side of things. So it's a very real happening.
The Marksman Firearms Training Center and Indoor Shooting Range, George, still open Monday through Saturday, correct?
That's correct. And for your retail side, we open up at 10 a.m. Until 7. And again, Sundays have been reserved, and we will continue. Looks like to do that for a while anyway for our concealed classes when we have those.
And like the Marksman Firearms Training Center and Indoor Shooting Range on Facebook, George, we talk about tragedies, whether it's a school. We've seen it at Walmart here recently in Chesapeake. And, of course, who would have thought recently as last Friday, a shooting at a school, luckily nobody was murdered, could have easily been. But a 6-year-old, George, I mean, the protocol and the steps it is to purchase a gun. Obviously, it was purchased by the mother of the subject. I don't want to give credit to the subject that shot the teacher. I have zero respect for that family. But, George, really a 6-year-old, it's tough enough for a 6-year-old to bring his lunchbox to school, let alone a gun.
Well, typically all of those problems like that, this one in particular, but in general, those problems begin at home, and it's either misdirected supervision or a total lack of supervision. And, for a 6-year-old, you have to, at this point, you have to make a lot of assumptions. And I'm sure the investigators, the detectives, or whatever that's investigating this, have asking themselves, the same, questions and trying to get, to the answers. They're a step ahead of us because they've got the ability to sit down with the principal individuals involved and get firsthand accounts as to what did happen. But for the rest of us, until that particular information is made public, which to my knowledge at this point it has not been, we have to make several assumptions. And number one is either the child watches a lot of movies, TV programs that's got guns in it, and he's very observant and can see how this everything put together, how the firearm is operated. Now the police have, in the reports I've seen, identified it as a Taurus 9mm. They didn't say the particular model, but I'm familiar with most of those. And either that or the mother, who is, they say, is the one that had legally purchased the firearm, has given the child instruction. Now, this is where I call misguided supervision, misguided instruction. You can give instruction to a youngster like that, but your limits have to be put on that. You're not going to be able to instruct someone who does not have the typical mental capacity, and most 6-year-olds would fall into that category. They don't have the capacity to be responsible, and that's what you've got to be careful about. So someone that showed that child how to disassemble to the point that they can remove the magazine, load it, and reinsert the magazine. And as a semi-automatic, that firearm, it's a two-handed operation. You got to hold it in one hand and run the slide back into the other, and then you'll turn it loose and you'll let that round get loaded into the chamber. And then how to fire it, if it's got a safety, and a lot of semi-automatics don't, but if it did, it's one more step in that. So I kind of think that probably an adult in that household is going to be held responsible for that, and I think that's probably the proper outlook to have.
Very good. Talking to George McClain, but police officers work daily with guns. They're probably scratching their head how the heck that happened, because still it didn't happen until the early afternoon. The subject held the gun that long. Definitely was premeditated, definitely anger issues, but it definitely comes from within his range of people he's around. It's pretty obvious. George, as we're getting into the winter here, what should people know when they first walk into the Marksman? And when I was there the other day, I heard the range going at full gear. So it seems like things are picking up a little bit.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a waiting list the other day, not too long, but that's kind of getting back into our normal deal. So things are starting to pick up some. So I think it may just been free time over the holidays still. People may be taking vacations along with in synchronization with the holidays, and so the vacation may go past that a little bit of time. So they're out and able to come in and take advantage of the range, and we're happy to obviously see that. Wintertime operations are no different, other than obviously it's cooler on the range versus hot, and we always try to keep it comfortable. But when you're recirculating the air on the range, which a lot of folks kind of take for granted without really understanding how it goes, but the heat in the wintertime and the colder air in the summertime, all of that has to go outside, and then whatever's outside comes back in, and so then it's a constant cycle of trying to keep the temps where where the customer would prefer. So in the summertime we say dress light. Now in the wintertime we say bring a sweatshirt or a zip up sweat jacket of some type. So if you get too hot you can take off, but if it's cooler for you can put on layer clothing, that kind of thing. So that's our only comment as far as wintertime would be to dress appropriate for the range. It may be a little bit cooler in there than what you're typically accustomed to.
And being the right physical and mental health when you go to the range, respect the employees and the clients too, George. When you walk in the door, you need to be focused when you're on the range.
Well, that's exactly right. We ask that everyone, when you bring the firearm in, leave it holstered. We don't want to see guns in the hands when you walk in the door. That would maybe clue somebody in that you're not a good guy, you're maybe a bad guy, and you can kind of see that that's going to go downhill very, very quickly. Yeah. We don't tolerate that. If you've got questions, call and ask. before you do something. But if you bring your gun in, it's either got to be in a case or it's going to be in a holster. It will not be in your hand, or you will be very unpolitely escorted outside until we can verify who you are and get you up to speed on what proper etiquette is on bringing a hand carried firearm into any establishment. No one's going to take that action these days very lightly at all.
The Marksman Firearms Training Center and Indoor Shooting Range on Facebook. George McClain is the owner. Open right there in Newport News at 520 Industrial Park Drive. Give them a call, 757-872-4130. Google George McClain on YouTube with Sports Scene. George, thank you for your time, your talent, and your treasure as always.
Well, thank you very much, Greg. We appreciate your efforts in this, and we hope you enjoy your new year.
Very good. We look forward to talking to you in February. I want to thank our guests today, Jim Ducibella, David Salati, and George McClain. For more, go to gjbtv.com. Click the YouTube link. Subscribe to Greg Bick. That's GREGBIC on YouTube. For Ken Carson, I'm Greg Bicouvaris. We'll talk to you soon.
You've been listening to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris.